fog was thick that morning. It moved like smoke, curling around the gas lamps and sliding over the wet cobblestones. The city was quiet, not yet awake, and the shipyard whispered with the low groan of iron and steam. A soft drizzle hung in the air, light but steady, the kind that worked its way through your clothes if you stood in it too long. The glow from the lamps caught the mist and turned it into gold-specked curtains, swaying in the early morning air. Ash Brenner watched from the shadows. He crouched in a narrow alley, wrapped in an old coat that was too big and too thin. A hand-me-down from another boy who had died or gone missing. He didn't feel the cold anymore. Not really. Not when his eyes were locked on the massive ship that towered over the dock. They called her the Catherine. She was made of iron and brass, with great smokestacks rising like towers. Steam curled from her vents. Gears turned slowly beneath her decks. Lights glowed behind porthole windows like distant stars. Even docked, the ship looked restless, like it wanted to be moving. She looked like she could crush smaller ships beneath her without even noticing or caring. Ash swallowed hard. He was going to board her, not as a sailor, not as a guest, as a stowaway. She was his best shot at escape. Freedom, a new start, or death at sea when the crew found him. Anywhere was better than here. Steam hissed and moaned. Dock hands called to each other across the deck. Chains clattered. Cargo cranes swung lazily overhead like pendulums in a clock too big to read. Ash watched the shifting rhythm of the loading crew, waited for the holes in their pattern, the quiet gaps. Then Ash ran. Fast, quiet, low to the ground. Past crates and engines, ropes and barrels. One wrong footstep, and it would all be over. But luck, or something close enough, was on his side. He reached the back of the ship where an old maintenance hatch lay hidden in shadows and rust, forgotten, tucked behind a bundle of pipes near the stern. It opened with a groan. He slipped inside, and the darkness closed around him. The interior of the ship was warm and stale, smelling of oil, salt, and long travel. Ash crept through a narrow crawl space, careful not to bang metal against metal. Somewhere deeper in the ship, a low vibration thrummed like a heart slowly waking. His breath echoed in his ears, his heart pounded. He found a corner near a tangle of pipes, tucked behind a service panel. It was dry, warm, out of the way. He crouched low, sat still, waited. His satchel, which he clutched to him maybe for comfort, held little. A piece of bread wrapped in cloth, a blunt pencil, a smooth stone he'd had for as long as he could remember. Not lucky, just familiar. Then it began. Far above, a horn blared, low and deep and certain. The ship shifted beneath him. The floor tilted. Metal groaned. Somewhere distant, someone shouted for final checks. Ash's gut unclenched. He let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding and allowed himself to smile. Just a little. Just enough to feel something warm in his chest. He had escaped the streets. The cold. The clawing hunger even stopped for this one fine, victorious moment. Now, all he had to do was stay quiet, stay hidden, and wait. What felt like an eternity later, finally, exhausted, Ash let his eyes close. And he slept. What felt like immediately, he woke to chaos. The ship was shaking, violently. A loud alarm was howling. Boots thundered on the deck above him. Steam burst from a nearby valve with a scream. The walls trembled. Lamp lights from outside his hiding spot flickered, and some strange other lights strobed and streaked across the floor, casting shadows that twitched like they were trying to flee, maybe shining in from a nearby porthole. The metal around him moaned. Something was wrong. Ash stayed low. The crew would be everywhere now, and if they caught him, this wouldn't be escape. It would be over. But the sound, it wasn't just alarm. It was panic. Cacophonous screams echoed down the metal halls. Sharp, sudden, and real. Heavy cargo slammed somewhere above him. Boots thundered, and beneath it all, the grinding moan of the ship itself, like it was fighting something it couldn't see. Ash squeezed deeper into the shadows, craning his neck to peek at a sliver of light through the pipes, glimpsing a porthole in a corridor beyond. Lightning flashed. Not from above, not from the sky, from the side. A jagged white bolt shot horizontally across the porthole, tearing the dark in two without a sound. That did it. Ash scrambled out of his hiding spot. The air felt wrong, too hot, too sharp, like a storm was happening inside the ship as much as outside. He stumbled, losing his footing in the corridor next to his hiding spot as the ship lurched, and shakily he climbed a narrow stairwell, peering through the porthole he'd seen from afar moments ago, and froze. The sky was boiling, clouds twisted in impossible shapes. Lightning cracked across the sky, but it was silent. Just flashes of white and green and violet, dancing through the air like fire. The sea below wasn't calm, but it wasn't rough either. It moved, like it was breathing, like it was alive. Ash suddenly wildly feared that the ship could be taking on water and he wouldn't even know it, trapped in his tiny corridor, unable to even open the hatch he'd come through if there was water pressure against it. He had to know what the crew knew. He had to risk being spotted. Ash scrambled further up the stairwell to the mid-deck, slipping through a half-open hatch. Chaos met him like a wall. Men ran, wild-eyed, shouting over the wind and steam. One hauled on a buckled pipe, his hands raw and bleeding. Another tried to stabilize a shifting crane arm before it fell. He failed. Somewhere nearby, someone screamed and didn't stop. Crew members rushed past him in the corridors. No one looked twice at the boy clinging to the railing. In the middle of the storm, he was just another blur in the chaos. Ash crouched near a stack of crates. Rain pounded the upper deck now, harder, faster. Ash looked up through a skylight and saw clouds rolling sideways, spiraling like smoke sucked into a drain. Lightning again. Sideways. Silent. It illuminated the faces of the crew as they passed him, grizzled men with years of salt and waves behind their eyes. And still, through clear looks of terror, they were determined. Ash stayed crouched, frozen, calculating. Was it safer to stay neglected amongst the crates, or to run before the ship tore itself apart? Could he make it to the deck to, what? Jump off before the ship sank and swallowed everyone with it? The decision was made for him. Two crewmen lifted some toppled crates up over where Ash was tucked, spotting him.
Oi, you!
Ash bolted. He weaved between crates, ducked under cables. He was fast and wiry, but not fast enough. A strong hand grabbed the back of his coat. Another wrapped around his arm. He kicked, twisted, tried to drop his weight and wriggle free. He'd done it 100 times in the streets, but these men were bigger, harder, trained. One lifted him off the floor like he weighed nothing at all.
Bloody hell, we've got a rat.
One of them muttered. The other yelled in Ash's face.
Sneak aboard the Catherine? Thought you wouldn't get caught. Fine pick you made, lad. She's in the Hellmore now.
The ship pitched suddenly, and Ash tried to slip and twist away, to no avail. The man holding him had a vice grip.
Let's take him up to the deck. Keep him out of the way until the captain can throw him off the ship.
One of the men yelled as the ship groaned loudly, pitched the other way, and a mechanic knocking sounded from all around them. All of them stumbled, slamming into the nearby wall. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the shaking stopped. The alarms blared on for a few moments, then went silent. Only the soft creaking of metal remained, and the wind, slow and steady now. Not howling, just whispering. The two men looked around, then at each other, mouths agape. Ash looked out a nearby porthole and couldn't make sense of what he was seeing.
In all my years?
The older of the two men muttered.
Come on then.
They pulled Ash up and dragged him toward the upper deck. The air outside blasted them as they emerged from below. It felt different, thinner, colder. The stars above were brilliant, and the sky was far too clear for what they had just been through. Ash looked up into what looked like nighttime sky and felt his chest tighten. He didn't know all the constellations, but even he could tell. These weren't right. He felt the grips of the two men holding him go a bit slack as they looked up as well, but Ash was too transfixed to even think of escape now. The stars were scattered in strange patterns, shapes he'd never seen before. Some shimmered in colors he didn't know stars could be. Others pulsed like beacons. The crew streamed up from below decks, gathering around, quiet now, watching the sky. At the front of the deck stood the captain, Captain Revek, tall, calm. Her coat flapped in the wind, long and dark. Her eyes scanned the horizon. Her jaw was tight. She turned slowly as the crewmen came back to themselves and approached with Ash.
Found a stowaway in the storm, Captain.
One of them said. Captain Revek didn't respond at first. She looked at Ash for a moment, meeting his eyes with her own cold, bright, piercing blue stare. She turned back to the sky. There was a long silence. No one spoke. Finally, she exhaled. Her voice was low, calm, certain.
These aren't our stars,
She said.
the stars are wrong.